focus on developing formulas for triangles and quadrilaterals. So the first quadrilateral we're going to look at is the parallelogram. So the area of the parallelogram is the area equals base times height. Okay, so we're going to write that out. So the area, and then we'll say of the parallelogram, so we'll do the shape, equals base times height. Okay, now the height is always going to form that 90-degree angle. Okay? And then you're always going to have your base from that as well. Okay, so your height is going to go up and down. Okay, but remember these can also be turned. So not every parallelogram is going to look exactly like this, and we have to make sure that we can recognize it in different forms. Then we're going to talk about triangles and trapezoids. Did you guys do trapezoids in 8th grade?
A little bit. No.
Okay. Okay. So the triangle is one that I hope that you do remember. Okay, so the area for a triangle is going to equal 1/2 times the base times the height. Okay, and one of the reasons why I think it's great to write this out is because research shows that you remember more about what you write down and what you hear versus what you just read. Okay, so we're trying to commit this to our memory, okay, and start to make sense of what they're asking us to do. Okay, so you have your height here, and then your base. For a trapezoid is a quadrilateral. You can have an isosceles trapezoid or a right trapezoid, but your equation for the trapezoid is going to be 1/2 the sum of the two bases times the height, or you might do the sum of the bases times the height divided by 2. This is usually the one that I'll use. Okay, so this means that the area, I'm going to put a T for trapezoid, is equal to 1/2 times base 1 plus base 2 times the height. Now, it doesn't matter what your base 1 and your base 2 are, but base 1 and base 2 are parallel. Can you guys see that from your picture? Okay, so the two bases that you're going to use are going to be parallel to each other. Okay, so this is a base, and this is a base. And the bases are parallel. Again, your height is easily recognizable by that 90-degree angle if it's present. Okay, and then the last thing we're going to talk about are rhombuses and kites. Okay, so if we have a rhombus or a kite, right, that's actually going to be the same equation. It's 1/2 d1 times d2. What are d1 and d2? Good, your diagonals. So with diagonals d1 and d2. Okay, so the area equals 1/2 times diagonal 1 times diagonal 2. And again, it doesn't matter which one you call d1 and d2. Okay, it's there because they're both going to be multiplied together. Okay, so if you flip those, That would be okay. All right, so now what we're going to do is put these equations to use. So this is to find the area of the parallelogram. So to find the area of the parallelogram, if we look back here, we remember it's going to be base times height. Okay, so you are given the base. Do you think you know what the base is? 9, because you have to add these together. Now this is not the height. I know that because there's no right angle. Okay, and then they label the height here. What we have to do is we have to find the height. Okay, so I'm going to say step 1. Your base is equal to 6 plus 3, which is equal to 9. Okay, so you know that b is equal to 9. Now we have to find the height. So they give us this little triangle. And this is a right angle. This is h, this is 5, this is 3. What can I use to solve this for h? Yeah, how do you know I can use the Pythagorean for this? Okay, so Pythagorean theorem is going to be applied when you have a right triangle. Now we have to do the a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So what's going to be your c squared? 5. So it's not always the variable. Okay, so we have to keep that in mind when we set this up. So this is going to be h squared plus 3 squared equals 5 squared. Right? And we don't even need our calculator for this. 3 squared is 9, 5 squared is 25. I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. Really, you can think of this as subtracting 10 and then adding 1, because 25 minus 10 is 15, and then if you add 1, 16. Okay, so if h squared was equal to 16, what would I do to both sides?
Square root.
Yep. So then you're going to take your square root, and then your h is going to be 4. Okay, so then I can calculate the area. Okay, so our base is 9, our height is 4, and then our area your what we're actually going to be finding the area of is this. I forgot to tell you that. I'm sorry. Okay, so usually this part will be a dash line. So when you see this like in your notes or in your textbook, this will be like dashed to show that it's not part of your shape. So really your base is what for just the parallelogram? 6. Okay, so we're just going to cross this part out. Okay, so I'm just going to draw this picture to show that your base is 6. Okay, so this is not part of your shape. Okay, which means that you're not going to do 9 times 4, you're going to do 6 times 4. Okay, now, when you're calculating the area, your units are going to be important. Okay, now, this doesn't give us a particular unit, so for this, we're just going to say units squared. If they give you centimeters, millimeters, inches, whatever they give you, okay, that's going to be that unit squared. Area is always going to be unit squared because you're multiplying a unit by a unit. So you know how like when you multiply x by x, you get x squared? Okay, if you multiply inches by inches, you get inches squared. Okay? All right, and then for number 2, what kind of shape is this? Yeah. Okay, so we have to find b sub 2 if the area is equal to 8. So remember that the area of a trapezoid is going to be 1/2 b1 plus b2 times your height h. Okay, so then what we can do is we can substitute in what we know and then solve for b sub 2. Okay, so if the area equals 1/2 b sub 1 plus b sub 2 times h, let's go ahead and substitute. So the area is going to be 8. What's your b sub 1? 3. So sometimes I like to label that on my picture, my b sub 1. B sub 2 is what we're trying to find. Okay, and then your height, which is going to be 2. Okay, so we have to get b sub 2 by itself. What are you guys thinking? Okay, yeah, you could multiply by 2, and then you could distribute the 1/2. What I would do is I'd multiply 1/2 by 2 first. Because multiplication, it doesn't matter what order you do it in. So if you multiply the 1/2 by 2, what do you get? 1. So it's just 1 times 3 plus b sub 2, which would equal 8. Okay, and then 1 times anything is just going to be itself. So 3 plus b sub 2. So then you'll subtract 3 from both sides. B sub 2 is going to be 5. Okay, now another way that you could do this is you could solve the equation. For b sub 2, then you could substitute. Okay, and this is something that you might see on the PSAT when you have to solve equations for certain variables. So if the area was equal to 1/2 b sub 1 plus b sub 2 times h, we want to get b sub 2 by itself, so we want to move everything else over. How would I move over the 1/2? No, don't divide it. Well, yeah, you could divide it. You could divide it by 1/2, or divided by 1/2 is just like what? Yeah, multiply by the reciprocal, and the reciprocal is 2, right? What's 2 times 1/2? 1. So if you multiply both sides by 2, 1/2 times 2 is going to cancel and make 1. So you just have b sub 1 plus b sub 2 times h. 2 times a is going to be 2a. Okay, what would I move over next? I have to move over whatever's on the outside of the parentheses first. The h. And then how would I move that over? Divide, yeah. So it's multiplied together, so I'm going to divide. So now I have 2a divided by h equals b sub 1 plus b sub 2. And then if I want to get b sub 2 by itself, I'm just going to do what with b sub 1? Subtract. Yeah. So I'll have 2a over h. Actually, I'm just going to write this the same for now. So subtract b sub 1, subtract b sub 1. So 2a divided by h minus b sub 1 equals b sub 2. And then if I wanted to plug everything in, I could. So then I'd have 2 times the area, which is 8, divided by the height, which is 2, minus b sub 1, which is 3. So 2 times 8 is 16. 16 divided by 2 is 8. 8 minus 3 is 5. And really, these cancel out. 8 minus 3 would be b sub 2, so 5 would be b sub 2. Okay, so you can do it any way. I would do it the first way, but I wanted to show you this to help you start thinking about problem solving, okay, for your ESAT. Okay, and the next one, if you are given a rhombus, then you're going to find the area if d sub 1 equals 6x plus 4 and d sub 2 equals 10x plus 10. Now, see how we have variables in both of our diagonals? So that means our final answer is going to have variables in it. Okay? So let's go ahead and find the area. So the area for a rhombus is 1/2 d sub 1 times d sub 2. Okay, so this is going to be 1/2 times 6x plus 4 times 10x plus 10. What do you guys want to do from here? Distribute the 1/2? Okay, so yeah, so you could choose. You could distribute the 1/2 first and then FOIL, or you could FOIL first and then distribute the 1/2. You guys want to FOIL first? Okay. Alright, so remember when you FOIL, you can do the happy face, or I know some of you guys like to do the box if you want to set up your box. Okay, so then 6x times 10x is 60x squared. And then remember we have the nose and the mouth for a happy face. Okay, so this 4 times 10x is 40x. 6x times 10 is 60x. And again, it doesn't matter what order you do those in, just as long as you organize it at the end. Okay, so if you combine your like terms, 40x and 60x is going to be what? 100x. So I have 60x squared plus 100x plus 40. And then if you are distributing the 1/2, really you're just taking all those values and doing what? Dividing by 2. So what's half of 60? 30. So this will be 30x squared. Half of 100 is 50, so 50x. And then half of 40 is 20. Okay, and then again, this would be units squared. Okay, and then for the one above, we weren't finding the area, so this would just be units. Okay, so if you're not finding the area there, you're just going to have your units. Okay, so then your homework is going to be a packet. Okay, now I'm going to give you some information now about our schedule. We're going to talk about